Hey everybody, welcome back. Craig Peterson here, WGAN, and online at craigpeterson.com. If you missed part of today's show, you can always go online to craigpeterson.com and listen to it. We started out today by talking about an article in the Wall Street Journal about Chet. What time did he wake up today? What did he do? Where did he go? Well, his employer knows all of it. So we talk about the legal ramifications, what you can do as an employer, and what you should expect as an employee. Panicking about your kids' smartphones? Well, we talked about a study of studies. This study looked at 40 different studies concerning adolescents and their smartphone usage, tie-ins to social media, suicide rates, and we talked about the results. I spent some time also talking about the secretive company that is using our photos. It has been going online. It has been scraping literally 3 billion images illegally and against the terms of service from all of the major sites online. And it has now built a database of pretty much everybody's face that has ever been posted online. So what does that mean to you? What does that mean to our future when it comes to security? And by the way, what are the police using it for right now? Because they are buying into it right today, okay? They're paying thousands of dollars a month and getting good results, but who's next, right? What happens when they sell it to the bad guys? If you are a brick and mortar business, you're going to want to go back and listen to this at craigpeterson.com. The largest hotel chain in the world, talking about a definition of brick and mortar businesses, Marriott, has decided to become more like Airbnb when it comes to their new services where they have homes and villas that they're renting. So what are they doing? Why are they doing it? How's it going to help? And what can you learn from that? We covered that today. Please stop big tech. This is small rivals talking to lawmakers about, of course, the big four, Google, Facebook, Apple, and Amazon, and how they're using their market positions as well as the law to keep competition out of the market. If you are a Charter or Spectrum cable security service user and owner, you are out of luck February 3rd. So last segment we just had, I spoke about what that means, not just for the poor people who spent $1,200 with or more with Charter and Spectrum on security stuff, but how about the rest of our data, the rest of the information? How about what the federal government promised us 25 years ago about our health data being portable under the HIPAA regulations, which of course has never happened either. So you'll find all of that and, of course, a lot more online at craigpeterson.com. I will be probably not this coming week, but next week. But I might send out an email this week. You know, I'd hoped to do something this past week, but you know how it goes. We all get really busy with our lives and our businesses. But I will be teaching more about some of the security stuff, some of the things we talked about here today, about keeping your data safe. How can you stop the prying eyes? So we're going to have a webinar about that and what you need to do and how to do it, okay? So keep an eye out for that. But the only way you're going to find out is if you are on my email list, my weekly list. That's craigpeterson.com/subscribe. Now, once you subscribe, and man, I still haven't done this, but we have about 100 people who subscribed but did not click on the confirmation link that came back in their email. So remember, after you subscribe, if you don't click on that confirmation link, you will not be actually subscribed. And I think that could be a problem for you if you really want to get these updates and know what security patches you need to apply every month or sometimes every week, right? And the latest in my podcasts and news that's out there. And I appreciate everybody who has gone out of their way to send me a quick email, me at craigpeterson.com. I got a great one this week, too, saying that I am now their primary source when it comes to technology news. And I want to thank you for that. You know, it is just wonderful to get that sort of thing. That's what I live for, right? That's what I live for. So let's move into our last articles here of the week. I can't believe it's been almost 2 hours here already. First of all, we have the FBI out there right now saying we need access to iPhones. And specifically here, they're talking about the iPhones of a suspect who was involved in the naval base shooting in Pensacola, Florida. So Apple, of course, has been really pushing the fact that they put security first. And they really do. If you use Apple Messages to send messages to another Apple user, those are encrypted end-to-end, so the bad guys cannot listen in. Your backups in iCloud are all encrypted, although Apple can decrypt them and will decrypt your iCloud backups if they get a court order. And that's been true, kind of silently true now, for 2 or 3 years. And it kind of upset me, because what that means is that if Apple can get into our backed up, secured, or so we thought, backups of our iPhones, our iCloud documents, etc., that means anybody could potentially get into them. Because all they have to do is get the key, right? They hack Apple, somebody with loose lips lets it loose. Maybe they forget it sometime and leave it laying out somewhere, right? It could be a very, very big problem. And software flaws have been used in the past when it comes to getting into Apple equipment. When there's a company over in Israel, you've probably heard of Cellebrite and Grayshift. They don't actually break iPhone's encryption. All they do is guess the password. So they've got some flaws in different software to remove the limits of 10 password attempts, because typically after about 10 failed attempts, a password, the iPhone essentially erases all its data. So they use some flaws in that and then use a brute force attack, automatically trying thousands of passcodes until one works. And if you have a 4-digit passcode, it means they'll be able to break your phone's encryption in less than one worker shift, right? Less than 8 hours. I think it takes about 6 hours. And you can go up from there. Now, I think if it's running full speed, it's like 7 minutes to guess a 4-digit passcode. If it's 6 digits, it'll take about 11 hours. 8-digit, 46 days. 10 digits, 12 years. I use a 12-digit plus passcode. And so that's over 100 years it would take a bad guy or someone to break into my phone, which I think is probably pretty reasonable. Alphanumeric, of course, increases it. But with the way Apple's got it set up, they are limited to how quickly they can check them. So in this case, when it comes to the Pensacola shooter, apparently it was an older iPhone. So we know that law enforcement can get into the phones because of the software security flaws that Cellebrite and Grayshift do use in order to get into the phones. But in this case, one of the phones was shot by the bad guy. And there's thinking that even though the FBI was able to more or less assemble the phone, there's a problem. They want Apple's help. So the big question is, should Apple be helping law enforcement here? And, again, my knee-jerk reaction is, yeah, they probably should, right? On the other hand, privacy is a fundamental human right. And that's to quote Tim Cook, who's Apple's CEO. And our Constitution says we have a right to be secure in all of our papers. And that certainly would include this. But, the Constitution still allows a court order to come in with a court order and look at your private papers, get into vaults, etc., etc. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. The government has been calling for years to have backdoors into encryption, and I can see why. Okay, I can absolutely see why. The gunman shot the iPhone 7 Plus once and tried to break the iPhone 5, according to the New York Times. So we're not sure why they're getting in. But what do you think? Send me an email, me@craigpeterson.com. Do you think that Apple should put a backdoor in? Do you think that having a backdoor in your iPhone is a good thing or a bad thing? Are the bad guys going to be able to find out that there is a backdoor and how to use it? So it's not just the good guys that can get in? Let me know. me@craigpeterson.com. Well, last week, real big deal that kind of went by kind of quietly for most people, and that is Windows 7 end of life. End of life was on the 14th of January, 2020. And if you have not already updated to Windows 7, you need to do it right now, because the day after end of life for Windows 7, on the 15th of January, a huge security vulnerability with the Windows security system was found. So everybody needs to update their computers super duper pronto in order to help take care of that. But we got to be careful. The big ransomware attack that crippled so many businesses hit Windows 7, and unfortunately most people still haven't been patching their computers. 27% of Windows users are still using Windows 7 as of last month. That's more than a quarter of everybody out there. A quarter of us are still using it. Why are you doing that? You cannot stick with Windows 7. There are no more security updates. I think, was it Germany that just paid Microsoft $800,000 to provide them with Windows 7 security updates because they can't do all of the upgrades in time? So think about that one. Can you afford the $800,000 that Germany just paid Microsoft to get patches for Windows 7? I didn't think so, okay? But anyhow, you've really got to do an upgrade, and if you haven't done an upgrade yet, make sure you've mitigated it as much as you can by having real next generation firewalls out there. I mean the real ones, like the Cisco Firepowers. Most of the other ones are nowhere near as good. Really good VPNs, right? You should be doing that anyway, frankly. So that's it for today's show. I want to invite everybody to make sure that you, again, are on my newsletter. If you think any of the information I provided you today is useful, you are really going to love my newsletter, because we go into some more depth. We give you pointers to other articles and other sites that kind of back this up, give you some more information. We tell you about the trainings, the pop-up trainings, the courses, everything that we do, but only to those that subscribe to the newsletter. And make sure you open them up every once in a while, because I automatically bump people off who aren't opening the newsletter, right? Because I don't want to bother people. Anyways, have a great week. CraigPeterson.com on WGAN.